Hurricane. A family learns firsthand about the roof-ripping force of wind.
Winds outside, I think, are at least 100, 110 miles an hour or more. Aaron, are you okay?
Monsoon. When this wild, wet weather hits, rescuers rush into action. Avalanche. A snowmobiler is buried alive while friends struggle to save him.
Anybody have a shovel?
If you're caught in one of these things, good luck.
Oh, yeah!
Powerful storms and the people who survived them. Coming up on Storm Warning. Miami, August 23rd, 1992. As Stan Goldenberg helps his wife through labor, he keeps one eye on the fetal monitor and one eye on the television screen.
There it is at 150 miles an hour, 922 millibars.
Stan is a meteorologist, and for the last 6 days, he and his colleagues have been tracking the evolution of a tropical storm in the eastern Atlantic. Now it's in the Bahamas, churning toward Miami. The storm is upgraded to a hurricane and given a name. Andrew. Stan's new daughter is named as well.
And there is Pearl.
I was short-circuiting mentally because this was a lot to deal with, both as a scientist, looking at the storm, as a father dealing with the baby, and as a homeowner in Miami dealing with this storm headed our way.
As Andrew nears the southern tip of the U.S., changing air temperatures and atmospheric pressure cause it to weaken and then expand.
In fact, we thought it was just going to weaken and move out to sea. But then the upper level cold low moved out of the way, and Andrew started to rapidly intensify.
These fluctuations make it impossible to determine exactly where and when the storm will hit hardest.
It had started to intensify, but they didn't think it was moving too fast. They thought we had at least till Tuesday or so to really prepare. Nobody really knew how bad this thing was going to be.
And now we get to wait for a Category 5 hurricane to hit Miami.
As the Goldenbergs welcome their new arrival, a Category 5, the most intense type of hurricane, also arrives.
And then I had to make the decision, should I stay there in the hospital with her or go home to be with my 3 sons?
Stan decides his wife will be safe at the hospital. He leaves Barbara and races across the city to secure their home.
I actually thought that they would probably be pretty safe because our home was very far inland, and that was just my own misconception.
We have the family here.
At 8 p.m., Stan is still rolling tape on the most memorable day of his life. His brother and sister-in-law and their children come over to take refuge.
If you can see it, the beginnings of Andrew. We have much more to go.
While Andrew was bearing down on us, I was still hoping this strong storm was never going to hit us. I was going through denial. I mean, it's like, it's going to go north, it's not going to hit us, it's going to weaken, and it just kept coming.
While the storm surges inland, packing 100-mile-an-hour winds, Stan keeps watch over his family as he tracks the storm.
There is the eye coming up on the land. You can start to hear the roar outside. And I think we still don't have the worst.
As the hurricane's fierce winds pound his house, Stan wakes his family and moves them into a hallway where he hopes they will be safe from Andrew's increasing fury.
In the hallway of the Goldenberg house, winds outside I think are at least 100, 110 miles an hour or more. Aaron, are you okay? We can feel our ears constantly pop.
The popping in their ears comes from a drop in air pressure. The wind outside is actually sucking air out of the house.
Okay, we just lost power again.
We're waiting here as the most intense stuff is about to come in.
When we come back, the Goldenbergs are slammed by the eye wall of the most damaging hurricane in U.S. history. And rescuers battle a monsoon to save a trapped driver. It's daybreak in Miami. As Hurricane Andrew roars across the southern tip of Florida, in a shuttered house, the Goldenberg family clings together.
Aaron, are you okay?
While their neighborhood begins to fly apart around them.
We wondered if we were going to die. We didn't know if we were going to make it out of here because it kept just feeling like it was getting worse.
Wind is really a threat to your home because it's not frequently taken seriously in the way we design and build homes.
Engineer Tim Reinhold studies the destructive forces of hurricanes.
As the wind blows over the roof of the building, it creates a suction or an uplift pressure that tends to lift that roof up. Now it becomes a real wing, and then the forces would just take it and blow it right on off.
That's exactly what's about to happen to the Goldenbergs.
And then came that first smash of the glass. The front picture window just went. The hurricane was now in the house. It was getting scary, very scary. At that point, something happened.
The walls of the house begin to collapse. Huddled in the shelter of a kitchen counter, Stan crouches over his sons.
I thought we would die because the wall was almost like crushing on us, so I thought that we would die under the wall.
At daybreak, the meteorologist gets a clear picture of the weather's power.
Our house, which had wood shutters, the roof lifted off, trees down, and as you can see, we have no house. We are glad to be alive, and we were in about the most terrifying situation we could imagine during the worst part of the storm.
Throughout the city, phone lines are out. Roads are closed. Safe in her hospital room, Barbara Goldenberg has no way of knowing whether her family has survived.
They had an emergency generator in the hospital, so we saw all of the first footage from the helicopters going over South Miami. And as soon as I saw the destruction, I was overwhelmed with despair.
I remember when I got her, I just broke. I mean, I just wept and wept and wept. It's just all the emotion just poured out.
But as a scientist, Stan is fascinated by what the aftermath reveals.
I was astounded that winds could do that type of damage. My house had a concrete poured steel rod reinforced gable end. It was just ripped in half.
Andrew destroyed more than 70,000 homes and businesses, left 250,000 people homeless, and $20 billion in property damage. It needn't have been that costly.
Construction on many houses was very poor. So some very expensive houses were just demolished by Hurricane Andrew because of the shoddy construction.
Tim Reinhold and his team of engineers at Clemson University are devising new ways to protect homes from hurricane damage. Using wind tunnel technology, they trace the forces of destruction.
That is some serious flexing, man.
As the wind enters the house, it creates an internal pressure like a balloon, like blowing up a balloon that acts on all the surfaces of your house. And so you start finding walls collapsing, coming apart, falling over on top of people. and a lot of internal damage when the wind gets inside your house.
That's right. Look at this. Where was your room? Where'd your room used to be?
For this hurricane expert, the destructive power of weather turned from abstract to absolute in less than an hour. What surprised him most was that even as a trained meteorologist, he was unprepared for the real thing.
What should people do? There's an old Russian proverb. It says, hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Up next, a raging monsoon traps a woman in her car, and the awesome power of avalanches. A hot summer evening in the desert. Towering cumulonimbus clouds build on the horizon. It's monsoon season in the American Southwest, when rains in the mountains turn roads into rivers. The summer of 1992 is particularly stormy.
We had a lot of bad weather going on for the last several days. And that particular night, the big thunderheads and big cells moving into Phoenix.
Arizona rescue expert Ron Cummings knows trouble could be brewing.
In central Phoenix, it can actually be raining 20 miles away. So you can actually be in dry climate here, no rain, and have a 6-foot wall of water coming down the river.
Arizona's Navajo Indians call these storms Nadilchil, thunder coming. But the name monsoon is derived from the Arabic word mausim, which means wind shift. In Arizona, moist air from the Gulf of California collides with hot desert air, according to meteorologist Ed Phillips.
Probably only rains about 35 days out of 365, but especially in the summer months, we'll have very intense rainstorms, many times an inch or two of rainfall in a very short period of time. These are the storms that cause the flash floods.
This is what hit Nong Tran, a motorist who's tried to cross shallow water that quickly turned into a torrent. Ron Cummings gets the call to help her.
When we first pulled up, we got out and there was a car in the wash, and the water was actually over the top of the car.
He can't imagine that anyone's still alive under all that water.
Our first inclination that we had was that we just had a body recovery and that it wasn't going to be a rescue.
Then, rescuers see movement inside the car. Ron Cummings has faced many flash floods, but this could be the most dangerous water rescue of his career. He must ride the skids of a rescue copter to the top of the teetering vehicle.
Well, the car itself, it was so far out there was no way we could stabilize the car. There's trees and boulders coming down and smashing into it. The chance of it and all of us going were very great.
As the copter lifts off, Cummings is equipped with 2 life vests, 2 helmets, and one simple plan.
Our plan was that we were going to try to get out of the car, try to get the person in a flotation device, and try to get the helicopter to come back and get back on the helicopter.
After a few excruciatingly close calls, Cummings is lowered to the roof of the car. It moves a few feet. He lies down on top to look inside and sees a hand moving. Ron breaks in the back window so that the accumulated water can rush out.
She wasn't really hysterical. She'd pretty much come to grips with herself that she was probably going to die.
Cummings pulls Tran from her car, and the 2 stand precariously on the roof. But now they face another problem. The helicopter, hovering over the water, has whipped up powerful static electricity.
Every time the helicopter would come and get close enough and I would touch it, I would have to take the charge.
The pilot is also beset by problems. Strong winds push the chopper sideways, and he is nearly blinded by rescue lights. He drifts out of Cummings's reach in order to regain control. His primary concern now is to avoid knocking Cummings or Tran back into the raging torrent.
Every time I thought I could make a move, the helicopter pilot would have to pull away and come back. He was real afraid of knocking us off the car. So that he would just keep making little attempts and little attempts. Finally, he just got close enough to where I got a pretty good hold with one hand and a pretty good foot on the skid. And I just made the move to just grab her and just pull her up and put her on there.
Finally, Tran is walking on solid ground. Remarkably unshaken after nearly drowning in an Arizona monsoon. The following day reveals just how close Ron Cummings and Non Tran came to being swept into oblivion. It's a peril that will continue to plague people in the American Southwest when summer monsoons sweep across the desert. Next, an unsuspecting snowmobiler is buried alive. Avalanche. Mountaineers call it the White Death. And those who have faced one never forget.
It can be moving up to 100, 200 miles an hour. The air blast in front of them can flatten forests, mature trees, homes. If you're caught in one of these things, good luck. You're probably not going to get out.
On Gravel Mountain in Colorado, Greg Schultz is about to confront an avalanche head-on. A blizzard has left fresh snow that Greg and his friends can't resist. Most avalanches occur soon after new, wetter, heavier snow has fallen on old. Then, any sudden movement or noise can trigger disaster.
I saw the avalanche out of the corner of my eye, and it was just a big puff of white. When I was in the avalanche and it was tossing and turning me, I remember trying to, like, walk on air. My arms were moving 100 miles an hour, and my feet were doing the same thing.
Schultz tries to outrun it, but the avalanche engulfs him.
When I was buried, I was aware that I was compacted like an ice cube. There was no way I could move in there. It's like concrete around you.
Schultz's friends speed to the rescue. Scanning the white rubble, one of them spots his gloved hand.
Don't move, guy.
While an onlooker shoots video, his friends claw desperately at the snow. They know that even if Schultz survived the avalanche, he can still die of suffocation within minutes.
Help! Come on, guys. Need to dig! Does anybody have a shovel?
His friends dig feverishly with just their bare hands and a helmet visor. Schultz now has been buried for 20 minutes. At last, they free Schultz's head.
Okay, don't move. Hold on, hold on. Don't move, Greg. We got you. We got you.
Don't move your neck.
Schultz is alive, but barely. He's breathing, but his temperature sinks lower. He could still freeze to death. He is losing consciousness.
She's frozen.
Does anybody have a blanket or something we can wrap around?
They must get him out soon, but they have to clear his legs.
Looks like we almost got both legs out. Yeah. We're close.
Finally, Schultz is free. His temperature is rising, but he's too stunned to move.
Just barely got off your machine. I just saw your glove barely. It was laying there. It looked like it was hot. All right. Digging it, and there was your arm. Right here. Hey, Greg. It's a happy ending, buddy. Love y'all.
On the other side of the Rockies, winter storms can dump up to 3 feet of snow in a single day. In Utah's Wasatch Mountains, avalanche hunter Greg Dahlhausen rises for another day of battle. His war against avalanches is a shooting war.
All clear.
All clear.
Safety off. Ready to fire. Fire.
Base plate's gone. Ooh, it's a good-looking shot. Right in the gut. Let's go up.
His primary weapon is called an Avalauncher, which uses compressed gas to shoot a powerful pentalite warhead up to a mile away. Avalanche hunters play a risky game. They prevent big avalanches by triggering small ones.
Fire.
Dahlhausen, who survived avalanches himself, scans the shifting slopes, looking for danger zones. Slide areas where new snow has piled on top of old. He uses weather maps to track changing avalanche conditions. Aerial photos to locate potential slide paths. And density measuring tubes to determine where the snowpack is top-heavy.
Is the magic number we are going for. There's nothing like it, this kind of work. You're outside in the elements. It's amazing watching things change. It's always changing. That's probably the most interesting thing about working in the snow. It's under a constant change.
That constant change is about to threaten another snowmobiler's life. Without warning, a cornice breaks off, triggering a deadly white wave. Running full throttle, the snowmobiler races for his life.
Oh, hacksaw, get out of there. Man, that's a mountain of snow. Go, Greg! Go, Greg! Go, hang up, hang to the left.
This time, the White Death is outrun. But Dahlhausen knows it's only a matter of time before snow claims another victim.
Never let your guard down in the mountains. If you're not thinking about snow and avalanches and you're out in avalanche terrain, then you're in the wrong place.
It's something Greg Schultz, the man who tasted the White Death, will never forget.
Life can end in an instant. You can do it to yourself real quick. Mother Nature is something that you don't want to fool with, period.